The Crown, my favourite show.
Wow. I can't believe it took me this long to get this list out. What? I announced it all the way back in April? Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about Disenchantment. Or more specifically, the top 6 best episodes of Disenchantment. I talk about this show a lot. It's probably my staple at this point. Usually it's all about the bad. This character is a wasted opportunity this, and this plot is made up on the fly that. It's high time we talk about some good the show's done. Disenchantment does have a lot of bad or meh episodes, but it also has a lot of great ones. 6 to be precise. And we're gonna count them down. I would have done 10, but the show doesn't have a lot of episodes, so it might get a little repetitive. After the story ends, I might make a full list, but for now, we're just discussing 6. Little note, even if I reviewed an episode, I'm still entitled to add it to the list. I know some reviewers like Mr. Enter don't like to do that, but I've talked about those for a reason.
Just get on with it!
Well then, let's discuss. But first, let's start with an honorable mention.
And we're parted by the sea, but I can keep you floating if you just hold on to me.
Now let me say, I really wanted to include this episode so bad, but I eventually decided against it. One reason is this list has a few part 3 episodes, and I didn't want to add one more. If I was so infatuated with part 3, I should have just made a list of my favorite part 3 episodes. I wanted to add at least 1 episode per season, and I think I succeeded in adding at least 2. Now what good can I say about Last Splash? Well, I like the visuals, especially on the boat, and Mermaid Island. Besides, we get some actual chemistry and rep with Bean and Mora, instead of it being described to us like we usually get with Oddvalls or Serio. Plus, Mora is hilarious, and I love her relationship with the Mermaid Queen. It really mirrors Bean and Zog. Why didn't this episode make the list? I said it in my Mora video, but her and Bean needed one more scene together. I don't think the relationship is rushed, but they definitely needed more time. And the episode could have gone with the whole "it's a dream" or "is" plot. It felt like an attempt to get rid of Mora and have her not appear again, or to add another unnecessary conflict.
There are plenty of other fish in the sea.
But none like her.
Overall, a really great episode, but first, let me just say,
Just get on with it!
fine, let's get to the actual list.
I hate how when it's the end of the night and you're completely drunk and you've got to stagger home, it's uphill all the way. But you know what I don't hate? Most of you.
This one is super low because I like it more in a personal sense. It was probably the first Disenchantment episode I related to. I said it before, but I'm not Bean's biggest fan. Her design's cool, but I think the show should have been more about a Disney princess who gets corrupted, not Princess Tia Bender and her magical soapbox. In her own right, really turned things around. This episode concerns Bean's recent nightmares.
Well, if you've got nothing to say.
Oh, God.
Wow, I thought it was the only one who had dreams like that. Well, I'm usually in a shopping mall or driving, but I am a big believer in dreams having deeper meanings. Looking for advice, Zog tells her that if you want to stop a nightmare, you gotta work for the issues causing it. Too bad Furby hasn't been invented yet. Bean goes to a coffee shop and rants to Mary the mop girl?
I'm 23, but I still get to order off the kids' menu.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't know that was supposed to be Mop Girl. I just thought she was some random background character.
You look really familiar, Mary.
I have another job working for people who never notice me because they're so self-absorbed.
Similar to Zog, Miri says you have to work for your issues, and she proposes the idea of being creative. Bean starts to write a play about her parents. She says the play's about her, but I think it's more so about her parents, and she just happens to be in it.
I just want to say what happened.
So write a play.
You mean like a one-woman show?
God, no. I'm trying to help your career, not hurt it.
And as somebody who makes videos, yes, creativity helps. It may not solve your issues, but it gives you an outlet to work through them. They also capture the creative process perfectly.
Go nuts. You've been working so hard, you deserve that 6th cinnamon roll. That's a good start, but if you want to be a real writer, you're going to need to procrastinate a lot more. A little more suffering for your art, and you'll be good to go.
Believe me when I tell you, probably every single writer you know has gone through this at some point. I guess technically I shouldn't like this episode, since in the grand scheme of things, it's semi-filler. The only true thing we learn is that the Archduchess and Oddball are working together, which Tia Beanie Falls acts like is some major twist. But I don't hate its Enchantment episode just for being filler. If it's entertaining enough, I'll let it slide. Besides, In Her Own Right has a great message. At the end of the day, being creative is all about you. Even if what you make is bad, it's fine so long as you had fun doing it, and you aren't breaking any laws. Too bad for Bean, she discovers another ugly truth to Dreamland.
Women aren't allowed to work in theater.
Believe it or not, this was real. The first actress to play Juliet was Mary Sanderson, and she did it in 1662. You want to know why so many female writers use guy names like J.K. Rowling or George Eliot? This is why. So when you read Shakespeare, keep in mind that when he was writing these plays, all the women were played by young boys. Thankfully, the theater appeals to Mercury with narcissism and his college days, so he takes the play, writes his name on it, and gets it published with him in the starring role.
Wait, you're taking credit?
If you're not happy, they're casting for pork chop number 2 at the butcher shop.
Pork chop number 2? I'm no common cutlet. I'm a leading ham.
The premiere reaches the attention of Oddwell and the Secret Society, who don't like the idea of the king being made fun of.
Nothing but made-up hoo-ha to distract peasants from their miserable lives.
But that's what religion is for.
What it is.
Another good thing you gotta give this episode was the Secret Society. This was the first time we saw them doing something meaningful, outside of exchange cookie recipes. When I first saw them, I thought they'd just remain a one-off joke. They think they had power, but really all they did was throw wild bingo parties. This play is the final straw for Zog, who has been going through a breakup phase. Nothing Dagmar's are allowed to remain, not even the flowers.
You're gone. Erased from here. You never happened.
Then comes the night of the big play. Everything goes wrong.
And for an encore, you're all getting your heads chopped off.
In the coffee shop, Bean is compelled by Mira to go up and monologue.
What? No way.
Although there's one question I have. Was Mary doing it to help Bean, or did she want to see her choke up in front of an audience? It was probably the former, but Bean isn't the best person to her servants. And Mary did say,
We call her Freckles behind her back.
still, Bean delivers a pretty good monologue, all things considered.
And for once, he was right. Because whenever I fall asleep, it's nightmares about my evil mom.
Like a lot of people have said, we normally don't get that much time with Bean. It's morbid, but Bean tearing up and letting out the emotion is uplifting. Here it just struck a chord with me. In fact, Bean's speech is so powerful, it gets Doc to rethink his position of killing the entire theater crew.
That doesn't mean much, but it means a lot.
You know, this puts me in a good mood. I'm thinking maybe I'll call off the execution.
What? I thought we were gonna have a happy ending tonight.
Part 2's biggest problem was the massive ball of filler in the middle. Some of those episodes were funny, but they honestly didn't need to exist. Filler or not, this was my favorite episode of the whole season. And while we're on the subject of Part 2...
Elfo? I cared about you so much, Bean. And you left me dead on the floor?
I think I've said it enough by now, but Part 2 is my least favorite season. Regardless, I do have a soft spot in my heart for this episode. I originally wasn't gonna add it. In my first draft, Last Splash was supposed to take its place. This was an honorable mention, but I did a little more research, rewatched a few episodes, compared them, and read a couple reviews, and I realized this episode really deserves its place. Continuing from the Disenchantress, Bean and Lucy make it down to Hell in order to rescue Elfo's soul. Upstairs, Elfo is trying his damnedest to, well, get damned, but whatever he does fails, because God realizes Elfo's only doing it to get out of heaven, and not out of personal malice.
Send me to hell, sunshine!
Elfo, your noble intent far outweighs your benign choir boy swearing.
Upon his death, Jerry became God's best friend, and is probably the only one allowed to badmouth him.
How come he gets to come back to life when I don't?
Because I work in mysterious ways.
No, you don't. You don't even work.
Wonder what happened to Clyde and Becky? I say it all the time, but I do like the set design. Hell just feels so ancient, like something out of a Renaissance painting. In Hell, your punishment isn't being forced to push a boulder up a hill, or plan a baby shower for a woman you never met. You have to watch the worst moment of your life over and over for eternity.
And then it'll stop?
No, I worded that badly. It just keeps going.
The popcorn is just out of reach.
I don't know what's scarier, being forced to watch the worst movie in existence, or no more popcorn. We also get the reveal that Lucy's just a sub-demon. I guess you have to commit evil deeds to earn stuff like wings and powers, and he seems to be the joke of all demons.
Where do you think you're going, Half-Pint?
And where are your wings?
I'm still just a sub-demon, ma'am. I haven't earned my wings yet.
If I did have to give this episode one problem, I wish it delved more into Lucy's origins. I said it in my Lucy video, but I guess because he's the comic relief, he doesn't have as much history as the rest of the cast. He's just a side character, observing and participating. I mean, the Princess of Darkness was less about Lucy and more about being destructive. Can Part 4 please give us a Lucy episode? An actual Lucy Center episode? When they're trying to find Elfo, Lucy's boss, Asmodeum, sorry, I know I kept saying Asmodeus, shows up and Lucy surrenders Bean, earning his wings. Led to a our personal hell, we get the best moment of the episode. Elfo has been in prison, and it turns out the worst moment of his life happened after he died. Now, let me be frank. Elfo was probably my least favorite of the trio. I don't know if it's because he looks like Bart Simpson with sideburns and a stomach bug, or it's how annoying he can be, but I never liked Elfo. He gets a chuckle out of me every so often, but if he and Lucy were out at sea, and I only had one life preserver, I'd definitely pick Lucy. I do like when we get personal moments with him. That semi-redeems him in my book. I just wish they stuck more.
It was my mom. I mean, you can understand that, can't you?
You made me leave heaven when you don't even care about me that much. Why are you here?
Turns out Lucy was lying about betraying the group.
Puny low-level sub-demon like me could never bust you guys out of hell. I needed to earn my wings so I could fly you out.
Yes, we were all convinced you joined the dark side. It was a Cassandra Goffel level betrayal. They stick Elfo so in a bottle, fly off, and sealing his good guy status, Lucy tells off his boss.
Leave now and you'll lose your powers, your immortality, your parking space, everything.
That's a price I'm willing to pay.
Running back to Mermaid Island, where Elfo's body is conveniently only slightly decomposed, they stick his soul back in, and he's back to life. The band's back together. Oh, almost forgot. We have to discuss the Zog and Merkimer plot. Zog's been by himself for the past several months. Just like I thought I had watching the episode, did Zog really go mad from being in the coffin? Or was it because of all this? Merkimer was in the forest trying to charm another pig, so that means he and Zog are the last living people in Dreamland. We get a few scenes of Zog being a narcissistic jerk who likes Merkimer, but just can't seem to get out of his own way.
Oh, Merkimer, you're my best friend, and the only companion I'll ever want.
Then the Bozaks show up. Remember how Merkimer killed their admiral? They want blood. But Zog isn't the young stallion he used to be, so he has no choice but to run and hide. Only Zog realizes how wrong it is to let Merkimer be kidnapped, because even if it's basically his fault, Zog still considered him a friend. Zog rescues his buddy.
Fight my shiny metal axe!
Overall, great episode. It really tied things together. Just sucks we didn't get any definite background on Lucy.
I don't need all that attention, sweetheart. I'll arrange for something small and tasteful.
To many people, this is the best episode of the show. Definitely a safe choice, but why is it so low? Let me explain. This episode sees Bean deal with the fallout of choosing Dagmar over Elfo. At first, it's everything she could have possibly dreamed. Dagmar is a loving mother.
I feel better already. What do you call this?
Affection.
But there's a hint here and there she really isn't how she seems.
Ah, that unforgettable stench of manure and boiling cabbage.
There's cabbage?
Still, she's every inch a queen. Regal, kind, talk all good and stuff, and Zog is happy to have his wife back after 15 years. Picking up where they left off, their relationship isn't sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops.
Be safe, darling.
I mean, it's not like Zog is already married to another woman. Spoke too soon. Thankfully, we all know Queen Una doesn't take shit from nobody.
You will respect me. You are not the queen. You are reanimated corpse.
Pretty spot on. It was super fun watching Una and Dagmar hate each other. Una just wants to be respected, and Dagmar wants to push her buttons.
Please take my spot. I'll find another place to sit.
That's better.
Yeah, sure.
This was the first real episode Una did something outside of standing next to Zog or making witty one-liners. We also learned not only does the court not like her, but the rest of the kingdom doesn't. The council soon believes Una's outlived her usefulness. So here come the red herrings.
We will see who is going to vanish.
People start turning to stone, and it's almost always people Una had a problem with. Pendergast proposes assassination, he's the first to be turned. Auntie wants to warn Bean, she's next. The blame gets pinned on Una, but we all know it's Dagmar. I mean, how would Una know how to do this? This episode also reveals Dagmar never loved Zog. In essence, she married him to have a child, and then poisoned him once the child came of age. But Bean unintentionally saved her dad's life. Wow, that would destroy me if I were Zog. Think, he tried for 15 years to get his wife back. He became a jagged wretch of a man. He sent troops all around the world and tried to bleed Elfo dry just to get Dagmar back. And to find out she never loved you?
The only woman I ever loved. Do you know what I did for you? What I gave up to get you back?
Just one sec. Oddball is the king of shade, even when he's being a sexist jerk.
Women aren't permitted to address the council.
But you're the only one in here.
Then it's unanimous.
Shut up, will you?
Of course, there's also how the episode ends that's so memorable. I remember my jaw dropping when I first watched it. Dagmar mentions Bean has some sort of greater purpose.
The thing about your father, Tiabuni, is that he wants to change you. I want you as you were born to be.
What was I born to be?
And to fulfill it, she turns Dreamland to stone and spirits Bean away to the homeland. Great episode, probably my favorite season finale so far. One problem I did have was with Lucy getting kidnapped. Maybe it's not a problem with the episode, but a problem when we find out who the culprit is.
I should be the one killing everyone. I should be the one creeping everyone out. You.
We don't find out who did it, just he got captured. Then the next episode reveals it was Dagmar who did it. A few people guessed it, but the way it's presented makes no sense. It's a huge plot hole. Dagmar was on the roof with Bean when the attack was going down. She just used the amplifier, closed the hatch, and then acted like a concerned mommy. Unless she had some sort of helper, which I doubt highly, how did she make it downstairs and back up? Did she use her crown? I wish they answered how she did it, since it felt like an excuse to force Lucy into the Maru plot. I'd rather it had been anybody but her. What about Una? She'd know from the exorcism that demons can be trapped in bottles. I guess I ran it long enough.